See?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So Omni is very Chrome heavy, and we definitely suggest this is going to go for admin, agent, supervisor, whoever, using Chrome to access everything. It's just going to be a better process, and everything's compatible in Chrome. So just like any other system, you'll just get your login information and you log in. So the administrator and the agent have a different URL. It's very similar. Um, it's just separated so that way there's no accidental sign-ins from the agent side. But there are two different URLs for admin, supervisor, and then agent side. Today we'll cover primarily administrator, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to take one of your outbound campaigns. Let me get a I was going to take, well, let's take one of your FY21 campaigns, if that works, if that's okay. So basically what I was going to do is take one of your 2021 campaigns for University of New Mexico and copy it over into this system as we kind of work through. So is there any particular one that would be okay?
As far as the campaigns, I mean, they should be mostly the same, but maybe
Okay.
live on or they should be all the same.
Okay. How about I take UNMF FY21 fall lapsed? Is that one okay?
Yep, that'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. So within here, we have 4 tabs. We have supervision, which within supervision, we have dashboard, services, campaigns, agents, and customers. Dashboards will give you a customizable dashboard view. Let me go ahead and choose one of these real quick. So within here, you can customize these and build them how you would like. We also have a services tab in here where it will lay out all of your different services. Services are like campaign groups. They're essentially the same thing. And then we have campaign live view. It'll break down all the campaigns. Agent view, it'll break down all the agents. And then we also have customers here, so you can look up customers, listen to recordings, change information on a customer lead if you need to for some reason. And that can all be done right here based on the criteria. We'll get more into supervision later. I just wanted to highlight it real quick. I'm gonna skip over administrator for now. Then we have reports. So if you go into reports, these are all the default reports that are built in. There's about 77 default reports. These there is a way to create new ones. So if Bogdan wants to create new ones that are able to be ran right here, there is a process that we can go over on how to build custom reports so that you can access them in here. And all you have to do is click on here and run the report. But we can go over that at a later date. But that's reports show all will show you all the default reports that are within the system. Configuration, this is one of the things you really don't want to mess with too much. There are a couple of things like max report items. So if you need to expand this, you're not getting all of your results, then you can come in here and modify the number of items that it will pull in. 3,000 is typically a good number. There is one report, one of my favorite reports, which is the transaction list. This will actually give you each individual transactions. Sometimes, of course, this can get more than 3,000. So you can go over there and modify that to get more results in this report. There are pieces like this, so you can go into user and configure if you wanted to force the customer, or I'm sorry, the users to change their password at a set interval. Then you can do right in here and use data configuration users, and then containers. We're not really going to worry about that. Okay, so we'll go over reports, supervision a little bit more in depth at a later date, but for right now, we're just going to go right into administrator. So within administrator, we have worktops. Worktops are essentially the extensions that are currently in the system. So these are, you create these with our support typically we'll make quite a few so that there's not, you don't have to go in here and make more, a few weeks in. But essentially, whenever an agent logs in, give me 1 second, let me load this up. Whenever an agent logs in, they'll use what's the worktop. So in this case, it's PT410, and that relates over here, PT410. So these are just configured here. Extremely easy to create them. Typically, we make them in ranges. So let's say, let me go look, we'll say 409. So come in here, PT409. This really doesn't matter too much on what it says in the worktop class. It's just a way to organize it on the dial pad side, which is in the agent, on the agent side. And then down here, we put 409, make sure our secret is put in here. Let's see, don't remember what it is, but we'll just say it's ASDF. And then the allocated agent, on the worktops, you can actually go in and allocate specific worktops for agents. What is really nice about this box is, let's say I allocate this one for Josh. I hit save and close. If I try to go to 413, and then go to assigned agent, it will remove them from the allocated agent. So that way you're not assigning an agent multiple worktops. But this way, if I try to sign in with a different worktop, so let's say allocated 409, I'm going to try to sign in with 410. It'll tell me up here in the top bar that I have 410 associated. Actually, I'm already signed in as an agent. Let me go ahead and sign out real quick. And I don't want to call myself. Let me hang up real quick. Okay.
Josh, one of the things that I think we need to make sure that we're all on the same page as is some of the terminology you're using and what is a transaction, what is a worktop as it relates to us, because I'm not sure I understand fully like what you're like. It appears showing us login criteria information, but as far as those extensions and whatnot, that's all new stuff. So it's
right. Yeah. So extensions are they're a thing that you've had before in the back end. So it's
sure,
nothing that you ever saw.
right.
So basically, whenever you have an agent, you have to have a worktop. A worktop can either be a SIP phone, which a soft phone, Bria or 3CX, whatever, or it can be a WebRTC phone, which is what this PT410 is a WebRT extension. Um, So basically what the agents do is they only have to do it once if they use the same computer every day, they only have to do it once because it's going to be stored in the cookie within the system. So it's not something that they have to enter in every day. So like if I refresh my page, my hotkey doesn't work. If I refresh my page, it's automatically filled out. But basically every agent has to have a worktop that they can log into and basically sign into so that it can set up the WebRTC connection for the audio path to transfer. So that's what the PT410 is a worktop. Worktop is essentially an extension. Again, not something that you had to do before, but it is something. Um, it's just the reason why you have it the ability now is it gives a little bit more flexibility if you need to do a soft phone in the future. It does allow for it to easily change over. But yeah, so that's what a worktop is. It's just an extension that you put into the agent's login screen whenever they're logging in, and you're good to go. Now, these occasionally do have to be configured. We typically configure quite a few that should last a while. But let's say you add 600 agents or something like that, then you would have to go in and create those. There are easier ways of creating, that many, but for creating like one-offs or anything like that, then you can just go into new and do like I showed a second ago. Now these are transferable. Let's say 409 is allocated to my agent and I leave the company. It can't be allocated to a different agent after that. So you don't have to go in and recreate it again. Does that help a little bit with the,
Yep.
okay, excellent.
It does bring up the question, though. I mean, and I think I kind of know the answer, but we, for let's say a percentage of our employees, maybe 20%, they do always use the same computers.
Uh-huh.
But rest of our company being folks that are on campus and whatnot and students, they could very well use different computers each night. So in that situation, they would just need to know what their number was for whenever they logged in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The number's not assigned to the computer, but yeah, it's assigned to the agent. So yeah, they just need to make sure they remember that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't created all of them. I have a little macro key that reads an Excel file that I usually create. That'll make the worktops that I'll do later on. But for now, you have some right here. And again, these can be allocated to whoever. And even though it says demo, again, it's the way it's grouping the, here, let me sign in real quick. And the way that it's grouping in the phone book is dependent on the worktop class. And that's what the worktop class does. Okay, so that's essentially, let me go ahead and I'm going to delete this one real quick. I'm just going to rename this to main. There we go. But I just changed the worktop class from demo to main. And then if you want to go in and create another one, then you can go in and it's basically hit new, name a description, save and close, and then new one's created. And again, it's just the way how it groups them in the agents in the dial pad. That's essentially it for the worktops. There's not much to it. There'll be plenty of them here. You can assign them to an agent, and then they'll just have to make sure they put it in on whenever they log in, and they'll be good to go.
So
Any
is this
questions?
essentially how we're going to control which agents are calling on which campaign?
No, not quite. That's going to be a little bit later on in like services and users. Yeah. But this is how they'll make their audio connection so that way they can talk and hear the customer.
It's really just, in my mind, it's just a setup of an agent setup. Like once we hire, if we hire somebody brand new and they come on, they'll get, an ID and one of these, worktops, assigned to them. And then they'll need to know that for when they log in.
So what's the class?
The class is just how it groups the agent the agents together in the phone book or the phone book on the dial pad. Give me 1 second, I'll show you. So over here, there's a dial pad. And when I click that dial pad, I have a dial pad that I can make calls or use it to navigate like IVR or something like that. Then in the phone book, if you see there's a main, and that's the class. It's just the way it groups the agents together in here. So if I needed to call a certain agent, I could go in here and call this agent if I needed to. Well, I can't now because that's me, but if I needed to find, okay, this agent is extension 409, okay, let's call 409 or whatever. So it's not really, typically, if I'm being honest, we just have one class and everybody's in that class. But what you can do is if you have different teams, then you can create different classes for each team and then group agents together that way. And when I say group, I just mean, okay, I need to transfer it to somebody else on my team. Let me go to the phone book and see who signed in. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and go over to users. So within users, this is where you'll actually create the agents, the admins, and the supervisors. So in here, we can go ahead and create a brand new one. Let's see, let's look at this person here. Okay, that's an administrator. Give me 1 second, I'm just trying to find an agent within your system. Who could I copy over from your current setup?
As just a regular agent,
Yeah, just a regular agent, yeah.
you can do Sharon Hicks.
Okay, S Hicks. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's do Sharon Hicks. So it's very, it's pretty similar if I'm looking at the other one. So Sharon and then Hicks. Typically there's no second last name, so we should keep that blank. And then I'm gonna say S Hicks. And then I'm just gonna put a default password of 1234 for right now. And that's basically it. So first name, last name, the username that they want to use whenever they are logging in to the agent profile, and then their password right here. And then you can tell it if you want to, right now it's checked for password will never expire. So if you want it to rotate every 90 days, then you can have it rotate every 90 days and it'll prompt them to enter their password in. And then also change password at next login. This will of course make them change their password to next login. Typically, whenever I create them and I give them the default password, I check that so that way they can change it to whatever they want. And over here, one thing I want to note is this personal document ID. So the personal document ID is a way that you can, let's say you have a ID that you use in your on your side in like your current CRM or where you maintain where you have all your agents. You can actually associate a certain ID, like let's say Sharon Hicks within your internal software is number 644. If I wanted to put that in here, I could go like this, 644. And so now when I do my reporting, since you're going to be doing database reporting, I could actually pull her personal document IDs of 644, and it helps me match my data up pretty easily when I compare it to my side. But this way you can have whatever ID you have on your side, you can copy it into here if you want to use it for further reporting. Let me delete that
Now,
real quick.
what if we have it set that an agent changes their password at their next login and whatnot? As admin, are we able to see what they change it to?
No, you can't see what they change it to, but I mean, to know if they logged in and changed it, then that checkbox will be unchecked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they forget their password, is there an easy way for them to get it? Or
Yeah. So let me do this. I'm gonna save this agent because we pretty much have them set up on that side. I'm gonna close, and I'm gonna go back in. So Sharon Hicks. Let's say we click on her name. She, let's say she's already changed her password, but she forgets it. You just come right in here, type the new one, and then do change password on next login, and
Okay.
you're good to go. Yeah.
Cool. All right, good. I just, for a second there, I was just envisioning hundreds of college students not remembering their passwords.
Right, right. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is now that we've created the agent, now we can do some configuration items. So within the system, we have inbound-based skill routing and outbound-based skill routing as well. So what we can do is we can go in and create skills and associate them to the agent. So let's go ahead and create some so that way we can look at skills. So I'm gonna go to view skills. Currently there's none, so it's gonna prompt me to enter in one. And I'm going to say this is going to be like chemical engineering. We'll say she has a skill for that. And I'm gonna hit save and close. And now I have a skill that's created called chemical engineering. So what I want to do now is, okay, Sharon, she's pretty good at selling to people with that are typically their major is chemical engineering. I can go in here and hit assign skills. I have my skill over here and I can move that over. So now she has a chemical engineering skill and I can put a value of anywhere from 1 to 99, rating how good she is or, something like that. So I'm gonna say she's a 99. So I'll put that and I hit save. And now I'm going to close. So what this skill is going to allow her to do is if we do this, if we do outbound skill-based routing or inbound-based skill routing, we can then control who gets that call. So like if we place an outbound call for chemical engineering, then we can send this call to people who have that set skill of chemical engineering.
Okay, but where would it be indicated that
Yep.
for the chemical engineering?
So where it would actually be seen, one thing I do want to note is you can have multiple tabs open. So if I hit Control click on campaigns, it will open it in a new tab. I know on Next it won't allow you to have multiple tabs.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So if I go back into, let me go over here first. So I went to campaigns. We're skipping a little ahead, but it's okay. If we go to skill assignments, I can go into name my skill assignment. So we'll say University of New Mexico. We'll just create this. So basically what I'm creating here is a group of skills that I want to use on a campaign or an assortment of campaigns. So then I want to look at here, records without assigned skill. What do I want to do with it? I want to say I can either do not handle, so nobody will handle the call if the skill that's on the list doesn't match somebody who has that skill within the system, or it can be handled by any agent, or it can be handled by agents with a different skill. So let's say I have chemical engineering as the skill, and there's nobody that has that. Or let's say let's say we have chemical engineering, and then we have biology engineering leads that are coming in the system now. What I can do is let's say I don't set it up for the biological engineering skill, I can set this up to say, okay, if I don't have a certain skill in the system, then we can default it to a different skill, essentially.
Right. I think though, but well, my question is that is it a piece in the data that's associated with a record? Like
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so like if the degree was chemical engineering, there might be a degree field in our data. And if we wanted to, have Sharon handle calls of anybody with a chemical engineering degree, we would be able to set that up through this?
Yeah, so essentially whenever you import the list, let me get over here and just choose a random one. There's a column in here called skill attribute. So what you would do is you set up your setup, get all your fields aligned, and then over here you would assign, I think there's a field like major right here. So you would assign skill attribute to major. And so the system would know, okay, when I want to look at skills for outbound, I need to look in this column to look at the values. Then what I do is I come over here, create my skill group, and I say in this skill group, I want to put chemical engineering in here. And basically, if the value or this skill, chemical engineering, is going to equal this value in my table or my data that I'm importing.
Okay.
So if I hit save now, if my list, oops, did I hit save? Yeah, I hit save. Okay. Now, if I put this, whenever this value is in the skill attribute column, so in this case, it's major, I will assign these records to this skill. And then whatever agents have that skill will get that call. Well, it actually goes deeper than that. They'll get that call, but the system will only dial also if it'll only call those records. Hold on, let me rephrase it a little bit. The only time it'll call records of Chem ENG is when an agent with chemical engineering is signed into the system.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Brett, I see this as mostly being useful for like segment type if we wanted to.
Well, I know, and I'm thinking that too, but I think my inclination right now, and it may just be that I need to know more and try different things, but I don't know that we would be able to, like we would need, people call on everything more often than not. And there might be specific situations where, like on campus, if we had kids with a certain degree, or studying with a certain major, we might want them to call a constituent with a certain degree. but I just worry that it might be almost too refined or too filtered down for the numbers that we deal with than what maybe this would be most effective for. But again, it's just kind of learning it right now. I'm not sure exactly if you know, we will still need to have our segments and stuff, and that's what kind of I'm hoping, you know, and we'll see that soon. I'm assuming, like campaigns and segments and different views for hosted and whatnot. But I mean, I
Yeah,
think
segments.
it's good
Go
and
ahead.
it's useful, but I just think that I don't know. At this point, it's definitely deeper from a rep assignment to specific leads than anything we do.
Right. And my objective in telling you this, some of this is so that you know the features there. You may not use it
Sure,
right now.
sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
just so you know, it is there.
No,
So I won't
that's,
spend too.
I appreciate that, and like I said, it's I wouldn't say I would rule it out for anything. I just think that at this point, it looks like it might be deeper than we usually would go with assigning specific records to individual reps. But
Right. I
good to
gotcha.
know.
For sure.
Brad, I
Okay.
see
So
it for sorry, for
yeah, go
Concordia
ahead.
or assigned donors
Yeah.
and stuff like that too.
Yep. Yep. I was thinking that too. Like with some of the hosted folks, I think it could work very well.
Awesome. Okay, so going away from the skills a little bit, I want to talk about services. So again, services are campaign groups in the new solution. So they work very similar. You can have an assortment of different campaigns within within the service. One, I think, big upgrade from the next way is, let's say you have a campaign of predictive and a campaign of preview. On Next, you can't have both of those in the same campaign group or service in our case. But with this new system, you can mix the different dialing methods in the same service or campaign group, um, which is very nice. So that being said, right now I only have one service built. Again, a service is a group of campaigns. So if I wanted to give this agent a certain service, I could just click right there and it'll allow that agent to sign in into that service. Now, this button right here, force reconnection, what's nice about this is, let's say they're actively talking and I needed to move their service that they are dialing on. I could come in here and hit force reconnection. What that's going to do is, if I'm not in a call, it's going to tell me that I'm reconnecting. If I am in a call, then it'll wait until after my call and I've dispositioned it to make the changes in the back end. So that way I'm in my new service. So that's how you would basically initiate changes like that, is hit force reconnection and it'll refresh their connection in the background. So there is a way that you can change the service at a one-to-one level, but there's also a way that you can change multiple agents. It's very similar to agent teams in the index. So groups is actually a way that you can assign agents to an assortment of different agents. So I'm just going to hit close. Here's all my information. I'm going to hit save and close again. I'm going to go back to the main user interface and I'm going to go to view groups. Now, view groups, there's already 3 default ones that are pre-built, but I want to make a brand new one. So I hit new. I'm going to name this agent team 1. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so I've created a new one. Now what I can do is I can actually assign agents to it. So if I go here, put S Hicks in there, and I'm also going to put J agent in there as well. So I can go ahead and hit save. So now these agents are assigned to this group, and then I can assign different roles to this group. The majority of these are admin things. So typically you don't do that for the agents, but we can also assign services. So if I want to assign services at the group level, then I can go to my, close out of here. I can go into my groups and then find my group, assign services. Here's its available services off to the right, and I can hit push to the right or to the left, I mean. And then if I wanted to, I can go ahead and force reconnection to all the agents. And as you can see here, I was in waiting. It's telling me agent disconnected, and now I'm reconnected again, good to go. So I can hit close here, and I'm gonna hit close here again, and then I'm gonna bring up Sharon Hicks again. So if I go to Sharon Hicks, you'll see down here on the left how I have the services that I'm currently assigned to. And off to the right, you can see this little icon. So it's basically saying that I'm inheriting this service because of the group that I'm assigned to. So if I was to remove this service, I'm still assigned to that service because of my group role. But let's say we remove our service or agent campaign group out of this agent's ability or out of the group's ability, but I still want to give it to this agent, then I can still go over here and go like that. And now they have access to Josh service and then whatever other service is associated to that campaign. So you can do it at the group level, but you can also do assign it at the micro level as well.
And so this is essentially like dialing modes.
It's not dialing modes. A service is a group of campaigns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I wrote it down actually. Group of campaigns. All right. All right. So I think it might be useful just to pause for one moment and just talk about how this might relate back to the way that Next is, because like for our main portal, like where Sharon Hicks is and where this campaign is, we essentially, I believe, have everybody assigned to just one team. And it's kind of been that way since the very beginning when they converted over to this newer version. Everybody in our company or that works for us internally is on one team. And so they are all they all have access and are able to call on any of our client campaigns or our client campaign groups. And so I think I understand what it is that you're saying and showing us, but I'm just trying to relate it to make sure that I'm clearly getting it as it relates to what we do now.
Yeah, I mean, you can. Let me sign out real quick. Actually, give me 1 second. Let me create. I'm gonna say UNMF service. So I'm just going to create one called UNMF, and I'm going to assign a campaign of Josh inbound. Let me close that. Okay. So now I have 2 services, and let me go to users. I just want to make sure I'm assigned to it. Josh service. And
so for services, is this how we would essentially set it up for each client, like you just did for UNMF, and then?
No, I'm just using the name as an example.
Sorry, I'm just trying to understand what service.
It's okay. Again, service is the same thing as a campaign group index. It's just a group of
Gotcha.
it's just a group of campaigns. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let me.
There is one thing. So since you won't have multiple tenants, you'll have the one where you have all the campaigns. You could think of services as client specific, whereas you add all the campaigns from one particular university to one service, and then you move agents around as needed. So in a sense, you could say that the service is a customer.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I know that we're using just one essentially dashboard for everybody with this one.
Yeah, and then I think we're going to get into segments and how you can create different segments instead of creating multiple campaigns. Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of like what you see on the next side, whenever you select the agent for them to sign in, you get something like this, right? And they click on which one, and then they hit continue. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so essentially the same way. It looks a little different, but they're going to have access to here. So if they wanted to sign into UNM unfulfilled, use imagination, This would be UNM unfulfilled. They would just click on it and it would sign them into that service. And then let's see, UNM. Yeah, I can see that it only has one campaign associated to that campaign group. And essentially what you would do is over here in services, this is basically how you set it up. So this is the service here. So if I go UNM unfulfilled, hit save. So let's say this is our UNM unfulfilled. I could go in here, assign campaigns. I would get all the available campaigns over here, and I could just shoot them over to the left side using the little arrow here. And I would assign these campaigns to this service. So that way, whenever the agent was prompted to sign in, they could select very similar to the way you do it today. They would be able to sign in and click on, UNM unfulfilled, and they would have access to whatever campaigns are on the whatever you assigned over here. Now, what you could do is on the users in group, you could just create, you could just create one called team and assign all the agents to it. And then what you could do is on the services, whenever you create a new service or a group of campaigns, you could just go into it and then hit assign users, find your group in here. It's already been added. Team one's over here, and you would just add it over. And now all those agents, whenever they sign in, they'll see that brand new campaign pop into here, and they could click on it and sign into that campaign. Does that sound okay? Sound familiar? Or
No, that
okay.
sounds better. Yeah, that sounds better. I get that. I'll be interested. I mean, from what I get here, as far as if somebody is not assigned to a specific service, would they see that service in the login or have that available to them to log into?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll get more into this here in a little bit. We'll get into it a little deeper. But let me head back over here, go back to our agent. So talk about skills, talked about groups, talk about force reconnection. You can assign different services. Okay. So there's no questions about creating users. Well, let me go into groups, not groups. No, groups is right. And view group roles. So this applies primarily to supervisors and administrators. You can give supervisors and admins a little bit different access depending on who they are. So there's some, I don't want to go through every single one, but it's something that you could look over. But there's a bunch of different options to customize how how admins and supervisors can access this information that's in the system. There are some pieces in here that you'll see. This may not apply, but supervised services, campaigns, and agents by assigned service. So you can actually assign a supervisor or admin to a service, and then all they can see is the information related to that service. So that's really nice to be able to do that. But you can go through all these options and kind of look through, and if you have any questions that come up, just let me know. And the way that you get there is users. You could go view groups, choose a group, and then go view group roles. And you can see that information in here.
And
Okay.
there is one more thing that I'd like to mention. This is something that many people struggle initially is you'll see that first there's supervision and then there's administration. So some of the stuff from administration is also in supervision, but in supervision you just see information, whereas you need to go to administration to actually change something. So for campaigns, for example, there were cases where customers would actually go to administration to edit a campaign, right? But in supervision, you just see the campaigns that are running rather than actually administer them, make changes to the campaigns themselves. So keep that in mind, because people will well, miss it at first.
Exactly. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so now it's the fun time of campaigns. So campaigns is where you're going to create all your campaigns, obviously. Let me bring up this campaign again. So we're just going to go ahead and create a brand new one. And I'm going to call it, try to call it this UNMF fall elapsed. All right, so we create the name. We create a description. If you want to, you can just add a little description. You know, whatever you'd like. You can, this is going to be the creation date. This is going to be the starting date. So if you want to, you can actually pre-plan some of your campaigns. If you want them to start firing off on a certain day, then you can pre-plan. So you can go ahead and create the campaign now. Let's say it's going to start in 6 days. Then you can go ahead and choose a starting date of the 17th, and it'll start on that day, which is really nice. Then down here, we have some different options. So right here's the status. It's paused, obviously, because we haven't finished it quite yet. Then we have the calendar. We'll get more into the calendar in a minute. This is basically when it turns on, when it turns off, that sort of thing. Wrap up time. This will highlight and show the different times within reporting, and also in some of the reporting, and also on the agent side. So if you have a certain time frame you want for the agent to wrap up, basically wrap is the time between the customer hanging up and the agent dispositioning. That's wrap up. So you can modify that, and you can get some of the reporting to modify and look a little different, so that it highlights that they've been sitting in wrap too long. Global DNC. This will, global DNC, if you want to apply the global or not apply. Face-to-face will allow you to basically do like a manual dial. So within, hold on, I'm trying to bring this up. So it's very similar to Index when you go to add new lead. It's very similar to that. One of the main differences, though, is on face-to-face and Omni. It will allow you to search, depending on the script, I should say. It'll allow you to search for a record. Well, I guess it does the same thing kind of on Next, but it'll allow you to search for the record and then assign that record to your current instance. And then whatever disposition you finalize here will apply to the it'll apply to the actual record in the system. Now, I say it does that, but with face-to-face, you have to make sure that it depends on if the script is built right. Now, identify customers. This you can choose to be yes. Let me go ahead and choose a script real quick. All right, so basically I just chose a script and I was able to save it, so I get more options. So identify customers will basically do what it does in Next, where the record comes in, it'll take the phone number that's calling in and look for a record with that phone number on this campaign. You can also do show on face-to-face. So if I have this allowed and I put a certain phone number in, well, if I could do that, there we go. I put a phone number in, then it'll search for that customer or that phone number within the campaign again and try to identify and associate that phone number or the record that I'm calling for on face-to-face with the record in the system. But then I can also allow it on inbound calls and face-to-face right here as well. So for now, I'm just going to hit, I'll do face-to-face at inbound, and I'll allow face-to-face so that they can hit essentially add new lead like in Next. Over here on the bottom section, this is the channel. So phone, of course, save history. Save history will allow you to determine how long you save the information. You can do 1 to whatever, but then at that set time, whenever it'll delete the data. So typically we keep it at 0. It's totally up to you though on how long you want to save your data. Quota, this will allow you to dial certain segments or the campaign as a whole as well. Once you hit a certain quota of, let's say 20, let's say we made our dispositions to be, sales, and at a certain number of sales, we want to stop calling on this campaign, then we can set the max quota right here. And then we can also analyze the quota right here for the campaign and day right there. Skill assignments. So basically the skills that we created earlier, in this case, UNM. Hold on one second, sorry. Okay. Where was that? All right, skill assignments. So basically we created the skill assignment over there. We added our different skills that we have and then what the values are going to be. And then in skill assignments, this is where I assign that setup to the actual campaign. Nuisance setting, I'm actually going to hold off on that until we finish this. Okay. Or until we finish the rest of the settings. Allow new customer. Do we want to allow the agent to create a new, let's say a call comes in via inbound. Do we want to allow the agent to create a new record within the system? And that's what allow new customer is. We can either do not allow or allow. Allow anonymous. Allow anonymous will allow me to work through a lead with it not being identified or the customer being identified. All right. Dial mode. This is the fun part. Dial mode. So we have no dialing preview, automatic preview, progressive, predictive, agentless. Preview, very simple. It loads up, you see the screen, and then you can press call to make the call. Automatic preview. It loads up. As soon as it loads up, it'll automatically start dialing it as soon as it loads up on the agent screen. That's automatic preview. Progressive is very similar to predictive, where it'll automatically call. The progressive and predictive do have a few changes on the way it dials. There's again nuisance call. You are not allowed to modify with progressive. Same thing for hold target. With predictive though, you can modify pretty much all of the different aspects right here. Okay, let's see. Yeah, predictive, and then agentless is agentless, where basically you can do like a broadcast, like in Next, you can do kind of here set up an outbound IVR to do, leave a message or something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this to predictive just so I can go through all the settings. So control device is basically the answer machine detection device. So within this system, you can custom create AMD detection devices that will do X, Y, and Z. So you can, on campaign A, you can have it place the call, determine if it's an answer machine or not. If it's an answer machine, then you can either A, send it to an agent, B, send it to, play a message and get their input, and then send it to an agent, or you can, if the call was the answer machine, then you can write something to the database. There's just a multitude of different things with the control device, but at the core, it's the AMD detection and what happens with AM during that time. I'm still going to skip over nuisance. Lines, typically we leave this at 0. We let the system decide what it needs, and it'll use the licenses that are on the system to determine how many lines it needs to place. Again, you can come in here and customize it though if you want to, but typically we leave it at 0. Recordings, do you want to allow recordings on this? Manual means the agent has to manually press the record button. Let me click here. So whenever they answer the call, they have to press the record button. That's a manual. Integration is talking about from the agent script side, and then automatic. Well, automatically start recording once the call is answered. Auto answer, you can set to manual, auto, or application. Typically we set this at auto. Auto means call comes in, the call is answered by the agent, or call comes in, it's sent to an agent, and then the agent will automatically have it connected to them. Otherwise, the agent has the ability to answer the call or hang up on the call. So when I say hang up on the call, I mean decline the call from coming to them. So typically we leave it at auto, so that way call comes in and gets sent to an agent, and then the system automatically picks it up for them. Trunks access code. This is one of the pieces that can be used for controlling what number is dialed or is shown up on the customer side. So if I place a call, I can associate this number to be shown if I use trunk access code, blah, 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 blah. And I would put that number in here. This is one way of doing it. There's an alternative way of doing it. We'll get to that here in a minute. We also have the hold target, how long we're wanting to actually hold the calls before dropping or whatever. So that way we're not, this also goes, the hold target and nuisance percentage go into how long or how fast we're dialing for predictive. I do know, pretty sure the majority of yours are preview, right? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of yours are preview, which is perfectly fine, but I want to make sure all the knowledge is out there.
Yeah,
But
no, it is, but we may very well want to use these other modes of dialing. We've had issues in the past, but those issues were mainly because of our reporting system.
Okay, yeah. So nuisance call percent, hold target, both of those items do go into the predictive system, and the samplings and different things like that on how fast it's actually placing those calls. Calls that may get abandoned because maybe we over dial for whatever reason, and we have to hang up on the customer, so that way we're not keeping them for too long. This abandoned calls dial is basically saying on the next time that we call this customer, how do we want to do it? Dialer is going to use the dial mode that we see off to the left. But let's say we call a customer, we hang up on them, and we set it to preview. Basically, this means it'll show to the agent, and then they have to press call. Or if automatic preview, it'll show to the agent, and then it'll automatically start dialing. So those are pretty neat. So basically, call gets abandoned, you can control how it gets called on the next dial. We typically leave it at dialer, but it's totally up to you. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I have a really talkative cat and I was trying to close the door. So, all right, so auto answer set to auto, no answer timeout. So basically this is, you can control here how long it'll ring. And then if it rings to, for 30 seconds, no answer or anything like that, then it'll disposition it as no answer and then redial that number back on the retry options. Max simultaneous calls, this will allow you to modify how many calls you'll allow the system to call simultaneously for like an agent. So it's kind of like a ratio. But what we're doing here is we're going to say, all right, I'm going to give you a max of 7 that you can do per an agent. You're still letting the system is going to decide what it's going to do. So it still has its nuisance percentage and its hold targets and its lines that it has to modify, that it has to use. But you're going to limit the number of calls that it can send. This can be modified throughout the day if you're seeing that it's too slow. This is one of the pieces that you can modify to increase your dialing or slow it down also. So let's go over nuisance real quick. Let me pull up a document. It's better to see it. It's a little easier to see it and understand it. Okay, that didn't work. Give me a second. All right, here we go. So what nuisance is it basically if you're holding the customer too long. So we set up these parameters: greeting time, hold time, and abandon time. Now you can do abandon or hold, or you can do one or the other, or you can do both. Okay. So what this does is basically what we're saying is the greeting time, we're going to give 2.5 seconds. So this is the start of the call, or when it gets connected, the blue line on the far left, and we're giving 2.5 seconds for the greeting to be said. All right. Then what we're doing is we're saying 3 seconds. We're going to give it 3 seconds from green line to red line for us to be able to handle it. So we're saying from start of call connected to us holding it. So we're giving it 2.5 seconds for the greeting time, and then 3 seconds for processing and holding on to the call. If the call is answered between this green bar and this red bar, it's okay. It's within bounds. But if we do something with the call after the red line, we're going to consider that a nuisance call, meaning we held the call for too long and we're calling way too quick, or we're calling too quick, and the system's going to say, okay, my nuisance is 3%, so 3% of my calls that I do, I need to not be a nuisance. So 3% of my calls has to be answered to the left, or no more than 3% should be answered to the right of this red line. Now these items are configurable, and that's configured right here in the legacy settings. But again, it's really we're giving 2.5 seconds for the greeting time, and then we're giving 3 seconds for the call to be answered by an agent. If the agent takes, not if the agent takes too long, but if the system can't deliver that call in that time frame, then we're going to count that call as a nuisance. It's going to increase our nuisance call percent, our running total, and then if it gets to 3% or higher, then it's going to start slowing down our dialing, so that way we're not holding on to too many calls.
So this is all predictive, though.
Yeah, this is all predictive. Yeah. Yeah. Typically, we set it up for 2.5 seconds and 3 seconds, and that's typically what we run with. Which is a pretty standard, which is this one right here. And then you can also control how many days you're looking at your nuisance for. So typically it's over 30 days or 90 days or whatever. But yeah, this is all for predictive. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to your UNMF. So for this case, you're doing manual preview. So we'll just go ahead and set this at preview. Recordings automatic, auto answer. That's perfect. Looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Okay. And the script is going to be the agent script that the agent sees. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our call disposition codes. Now the call disposition codes from 1 to 25, I believe. Yeah, or 1 to 26, I'm sorry. From 1 to 26, or 0 to 26, I'm sorry, are the standard system dispositions. So the system typically uses these for, if there's an error trying to call, or there's, it tries to place the call, but it gets a specific number back, then it'll disposition it as that, and here are the different delays on that. So what I want to actually do though is I'm going to take your answer machine disposition that you have in here. There is an answer machine disposition right here that we could use. You can also create your own. So if I go in here, go click new. Typically we start out the new ones at 100, and then the description is going to be whatever the description is of the disposition. What we want the agent to see on their side. Call disposition class. There are a couple of different ones. So if we hit do not call this anymore to this phone. Basically, it says if I use this disposition, we're going to stop calling to this phone number. If I hit do not call anymore to this record, then if the campaign is set up with multiple phone numbers that we dial on, it will not dial the record anymore. If you have multiple phone numbers and you hit do not call this phone anymore, it will still call the other phone number that may be associated to this record. So there's two different options for that. We also have call in minutes. Essentially, you can set this up so that you can call it after an hour or 2 hours or whatever. Then you have agent callback. Basically, if you do this, you can a screen will, whenever they use this disposition, a screen will pop up. Let's see if I can get this to trigger. Oh, I used the wrong one. So if I look, oh, let me try it over here. Sorry, let me sign back in and choose that. Oh, wait a minute, I chose the wrong one. Oh, hold on one second. It still has me as 49, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Okay. So if I hit ready, and then I want to disposition this as agent callback. Okay, I don't have it. I don't have the disposition here.
I don't think you saved it.
No, I thought I had it in here, but I think the script is limiting the dispositions I see. Okay, it's okay. Essentially, if I choose agent callback, a window will pop up, and I can schedule a custom callback. So if I want to call them back on, January 16th, then I can set that up and then set the callback and finish. So basically, this class will trigger that screen to show up so that I can customize a time that we call that customer back. Then we have unscheduled. Basically, this will mean that we're just going to remove the scheduling on it. So we're not going to retry it at a particular time. Then we have call tomorrow. This will default to call tomorrow, obviously. And then don't do anything. Don't recommend using this one. It will just retry that call again because it'll see the last retry as the previous disposition. So I wouldn't use that one. But if we do call in minutes, I can then come down here and type my minutes in. And then if I have a maximum number that I want to use for this disposition, I can type that in. So I can use, say, 10. I want it to be used no more than 10 times. And then if I can also go in here for the next call, use the phone. If I want to use the same phone number I called, I can do that. Or I can use their main phone number, or I can use their next phone number. If they have multiple phone numbers set up, then I can call their next phone number on the next attempt if I'd like. But in this case, this was so I do want to explain one thing. So the retries in this system compared to Next is, as you can probably see from right here, they're a lot more granular. I know on Next, you basically create the disposition, set the system recall, and then within the campaign, you set all of the dispositions to have the same retry that you mark as a system recall. But within this system, you can actually come in here and say, answer machine, I want to call back in 60 minutes. Recall, I want to call back in 120 minutes. So you can set these dispositions up to have a different retry interval, unlike in Next where you had to basically use the same one. Now you may still use the same one, but having that granular ability can really help improve depending on the disposition that you use.
Absolutely. Now, with these dispositions, as far as I'm trying to think now what I was going to say. Oh, so we have most of our clients give us lists, and their records have multiple phone numbers on them. One of the options you had here was do not call this phone number back. I'm just wondering, there's probably a parameter within the campaign that you've had to set to either count it, the attempts by phone number or count it by the account. And I'm wondering just about that a little bit.
So what happens is whenever you, let me go ahead and, so, okay. So right here on the class, it will actually, you know, like I said a second ago, do not call this phone anymore, or do not call this record anymore. So when you import a record, and let's say it has two numbers on it, we'll say one is home phone and one is cell phone, or home phone 2, whatever. And let's say we call this customer, or I'm sorry, let me go back to this. So we import a record and it has those columns on it. That record is going to be inserted into the table. Let's say we call the home phone and we get answer machine, and we set it up as do not call this phone anymore. Okay.
Right. But there's another number on the record. And so that other, I guess what my question was, as you were explaining it, it kind of came to me a little better. If I code it out, or we have it set that, you know, do not, if let's say the disposition was bad number and it's set to do not call this number anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that it doesn't complete the record if there's another number, and I'm hoping it'll just, you know, not show that number as being an available number to dial.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, and then one more thing right here. So let's say we have, let me look at your, what's one of your sale dispositions on here?
Specified pledge letter.
You said classify.
Specified pledge. It's like the.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so I'm gonna take this one and take this example. So let's say they call this one, you know, don't call us record anymore. Right here on contacted, if I go down here, there's a few different options. So contacted means no, I didn't contact. So it's like an answer machine or something like that. Okay. SC minus means I made contact with the customer, but they declined a sale or something like that. So it would be like hang up, like you have in here for a different campaign. Yep. So that's what SC minus would be. SC plus would be specified pledge letter, meaning you made contact and you made a sale. And then NSC means you made contact with somebody, but they're not the right somebody to make a contact with. So it's like, oh yeah, my husband's not here or whatever. That would be a NSC. It's totally up to you, but that's what it means. NSC just means you made contact with somebody, but not the right somebody.
Oh, what they all make sense. We could use all of
those. Yeah, and then SC plus are these dispositions, the contacted status, are some pieces that you can see on the dashboards to see, you know, how many sales you made at a campaign or agent, or you can see these different breakdowns on the dashboards, which is nice. And then record ownership, basically you can specify different dispositions. So let's say you got granular with your group assignment. So you have like agent A, team A, team B, and then team can't afford. I don't know. I'll just use one of these. So you have a team that specifies in something like this. Again, this is just an example. You can actually assign this so let's say somebody uses can't afford, and you assign it back to the same group that the agent that's making that disposition to, then you can do group assigned. If you want to assign it to standard, you know, you can do default so that it gets assigned to everybody. Or if you want it to be agent specific, then you can choose agent specific on the next call.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple different options to choose from. So let me close this out. One thing that's really nice is, let's say we create a campaign and then we want to copy, or we're creating a new campaign and we want to copy our dispositions from another campaign. You just go, so we go, let's say we're working on UNMF. We go call dispositions, inherit, choose the campaign I want to copy from, hit the right arrow. I can actually copy from multiple ones if I wanted to, and then hit save and close. And then now all the dispositions that I had on that last campaign are on this campaign as well.
Do they have to be on the same template or something, or
Oh,
do we
I'm
have
glad
to
you said that.
Oh,
Templates are a thing of the past,
okay.
kind of, for the most part. The way you think of templates in Next are completely different than the way you think of templates over here.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll get to that now, actually. Let's get to that now, actually. Because to get to segments, I have to show you this other part. So if I go to import customers is where I can store files. So if I get customer records that need to be imported, basically select file, find my file, hit open, and then it imports it in. Now, when I'm ready to assign that list to the campaign, I click on the campaign or the list, and then I'm brought into here. So in here, there's standard, just like on Next, there's standard information that's on the system. All right, and then you also have additional customer data. So up here in the top part, we do have a thing called templates. And the way the templates work is it'll read the file and it'll look at what options you've chose previously. Okay. So I think I created one. Yeah, I did create one. So I did create one for you already. It may need a change, that's totally fine, but I did create one. And these can be modified. So let's say I load on the main template. What the template is going to do is it's going to assign, it's going to read the file, like I said, and assign it to where I've pre-configured. So in here, client ID is ID number, first name is name, and so on and so forth. Now let's say we get their birth date. I can click this little drop down, find the birth date, and I can go back up here and save. So the templates are updatable and you can maintain it for new information that may come in. Now let me remove that real quick. Okay, there we go. So customer data, client ID. The client ID needs to be specific to the customer. It's pretty important. Name, first name, blah, blah, blah. I've just gone in and configured some of these. These can change, totally up to you. And then this is one of the important parts, segment attribute. Segment attribute is going to be where the system reads to be able to create its different segments. So in this case, I just chose segment, which is I can't remember exactly what. I'm sorry.
One of the headers on our data usually is
Yeah, it's on one of your files. Yeah, and I think it's like non-donor or something like that. So it'll pull all those values and assign it to segment attribute. So this is one of the key pieces for segments. Same thing for skill. If you do skill out-based routing in the future, then you need to choose the column you want to read your skills off of. Then once you set up your predefined kind of standard options, down here and upload additional customer data, you would come down here and you would basically move everything over. So I've already set up my template of main, and then I took your file in, and then I've already moved over the additional columns that typically you'll want to add, and moved them over to the right by using the little right arrow piece right here. So now we have all these different options. Again, it's already in a template. If you have a new one that comes through, then you can move it over, scroll up and hit save, and it'll save that option. If you want to use additional phone numbers, basically you come in here, you go to locator. So locator will be, let's say, our first number. I think it's called home phone. I think is the one you use first. And then cell phone is the second one, I think. So there you go. So right there you have home phone and cell phone. And so these are the different phone numbers that you have. And then over here on phone, I would set that to, no, there we go, none. And so now we have home phone and cell phone, and now I can navigate between those two. Not navigate, but if I mark a disposition of, don't call this phone number anymore, and we called our home phone, then we would still call our cell phone until we get do not call this record anymore, or yeah, until do not call this record anymore. So once you have all this set up, we have time zones right here. So we go time zone assignment. I didn't set up this piece quite yet. Let's see. Yeah, I still gotta import that part. It's not a bad thing. But basically we go use file column. We're gonna say our home phone. We have our dictionary set up. If no match, then we choose a certain disposition, or not a certain time zone. We go into our general parameters, and we're gonna set up 8:30 to 21. Here we go. And now we're ready to import. So then all we do is hit start import. I'm not gonna do that though. Yeah, I can do that actually. We're fine. So I'm gonna hit start import. Actually, I'm gonna remove this part for now. It's going to go through those fields. It's going to import that information. It's going to tell me at the bottom down here once it's done. There we go. So now we have records imported to the campaign. All right. So now what we want to do is go to our segments. So right now there's only one segment that's associated. What I can do is go to new. Going in here, you can see the attribute that's already in here. That was loud, sorry. We have Libents, major gifts, non-donor, and then I guess I didn't do very well when I built the file. But it'll go through that column, it'll pull out the unique values, and then it'll tell you which attribute. So if I want to create one, I could go over here. The priority is going to be 1, that's okay. It's going to be a static segment. We're going to keep it active, ratio is fine, and this is what I want to look for in that column. So I hit save and close. So now I have this segment here that I can turn on and off depending on if I want to dial it or not. I can go in and create a brand new one. It's going to filter out the one I've already created. So if I go, I'm just going to name this one non-donor. Hit save and close. So now I have 2. Go back over here. Major gift. Save and close. And there we are. So now we have 3 different segments that we can independently turn on and off at our will. Right now they're all turned on, but if we could then go in major gift. I don't want to call these anymore for right now. I could hit pause, save. Okay. So now major gift is turned off, but we have our other segments turned on, and those sections keep getting dialed. But then I can come back in here and do active. What I can also do, this gets a little bit more complicated, is I can go in here and create a type of segment called a dynamic segment. Dynamic segment gets a little bit more complicated. So what I could do here is I'm going to name it, I'm just going to name it type 1. I can then come in here and write a query. And customize how it pulls. So I can say where state equals NC and major equals chemical. I don't know. I don't know why I'm stuck on chemical engineering, but chemical engineering. What this is going to do is it's going to take complex criteria and pull in records that match this into the type 1 segment. So I can create a static where it'll just read through the file that I designated as a segment attribute, or I can create a dynamic segment that will you can use criteria for and pull in a multitude of different criteria. So those are a couple of the abilities with it. But this is how you would go in and create your segment, and then how you can independently turn these different segments on and off. Now, when I first imported this, there was no values over here on the NS column. There's 12 records total that I imported. And then as you can see, as I created my different segments, it removed them from our default segment and then pulled them into their segments that they matched right in here.
What is the
I know
syntax for those statements? Is it just, what can it handle? Like typical SQL statements, or?
Yes, it can handle
yeah.
Almost any query. You can also check the query itself as long as you have the database name, the table name, and the column name. You can do a pretty complex query here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm gonna close out. Okay, well, one thing I wanted to go over here. So within here, the status. So right now we have active. There's active and then paused. Active means, of course, it's turned on. Pause means it's paused. Active ACB means we're not going to call new things, but we're going to call things that may need a callback, or agent callback, I should say. Paused max quota, meaning it'll pause once we hit our max quota, which is set up down here in the lower section. Pause timeout and pause error will basically it'll pause once I'm blanking. Shoot, I'm blanking. I'll have to get back to you on those two. But pause and active, and then active ACB are the primary ones that you're going to be using. Okay. Any more questions or any questions about the segments? And does this look like it'll help you with not having to create so many campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it looks like it could, but then it's just a lot of questions about the reporting and I mean, once we create these, I'm assuming they just stay, and then we have them available. So it's just a lot right now.
No, I get it. Yeah, I will say this and we can touch this more with Bogdan. In the database, it does associate a segment ID to the records on the outbound side, so that way you can tell, okay, this call was resulted of, ending in 16, which is libent or whatever. So it does do that separation in the reporting. Right. Okay, so now I want to talk about, let's see, what is this phone number? Yeah, so data. There's not much that's going to go on inside data. There is one piece that will happen. This is where you're going to set up your caller ID that's displayed. So in here, I would basically type in, so like in this case, I'm just going to copy the number over from University of New Mexico FY21 follow lapsed. So essentially, you have to put this string in here, which there's already a campaign in there named that has it. And then you'd basically, in the data, give me 1 second here. And then in the data, you would just put the phone number you want it to display. Okay. And then you only need to do this on the campaign setup. After that, it's you just, if you need to change the phone number, you just come in here, you click on it, and let's say you need to change it to ending in 7. You come in here and do that, and then you can save and close, and then now it's going to display whatever that phone number or that local touch bucket that's associated to that trigger number.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So those two items just put into the data segment. Incentives, don't worry about that. That's a depreciation. It's getting depreciated eventually. Routing. So routing, always keep that at evolution. This top part's for inbound. So basically, if your queue is closed, what do you want to do with the items that are in queue? You can wait in queue, or you can tell it to work according to the strategies associated to the campaign. You can basically on the queue, if you have too many items, then you can do different things with the inbound calls. So if you maximum, if you want to say you would only want to hold 80 calls, then you can come in here and tell the system, okay, I only want to call 80 calls. And if my queue is too saturated, then you could, when the call comes in, automatically get a voicemail, let the customer leave a voicemail or something like that, and then queue it up. Number of agents. So basically, you can put a percentage in here. So like that, you could put it, basically you can just put this value in here, and then so it's 80% of the active agents. So if I have, let's see, 10 agents, then I would need to, I'd only accept like 2 calls, 2 other calls, I should say. All the other ones are tied up. And then queue timeout. Basically, if we want to time out the customer, after 365 days, this is helpful for. This is not just for audio, for voice, but it's also associated with tweets and stuff like that. So this is a way that you can help keep your queue cleaned up. Typically, it's not something you would do on this side, but typically what we do is we keep it wait in queue. We keep these unchecked, and then distribution policy. You can do most idle agent, highest skilled, and lowest skilled agents. This right here, the service target, is, it goes to SLA. How many seconds do you want to hold the call? Or are you giving yourself for SLA for the customer or the agents to answer a call? When I say agents, I mean waiting queue is what I really mean. So how long do you want the call to waiting queue ideally? And then what's your SLA percentage that you want to hit? So if you want your calls to be answered within 60 seconds, 80% of the time, then you would do something like that. Right. So that's routing, import customers. We talked about that. Advanced options, the stuff we don't typically touch. So I would stay out of this one. And that's really it when it comes to setting up a campaign. Is there any questions here before I kind of go back out and talk about the calendars?
I'm sure there are, but right now they're not really formulated, so we'll let it go.
Okay. Yeah, after this session, my plan is to create credentials for you, so that way y'all can go in, play around with it. When I say play around with it, look around is what I really mean. Is what I really mean.
Yep.
And just kind of see and look around and kind of maybe, I mean, shoot, you could even create a campaign. You're not going to break anything really if you wanted to try to go in and create your own campaign and create some dispositions and that sort of thing. So view strategies. So strategies are part of the control device, like we talked about earlier for the predictive stuff, but also how you associate a IVR or a DBR is what we call it over here, because the DBR can handle multimedia, so it can handle calls, emails, chats, WhatsApp messages, that sort of thing, Twitter. So that's what a DBR is. So DBR equals IVR. But this is where you would associate from the PBX side to a IVR within the system. Okay, So let's take this phone number here. This is where our support staff will come in handy. Let's say you're setting up a brand new campaign. You'll basically need to tell them, hey, I have a new campaign I'm starting. I need it to I need phone number. Oh, okay, well that didn't copy. Give me a second. There we go. Phone number this to route to 101, and then they would do their part in the back end. And then over here, you can either have a static DBR, which is basically just going to, when a call comes in, it's just going to play music. You can build a DBR, which we'll get to that in training later at a later time, which is a DBR script, where basically you can control it to call comes in, you play a message, hey, thanks for calling, press 1 for this, 2 for that. If they press 1, then you can send it to 1 queue, or they can enter information in, that sort of thing. So DVR is really, again, IVR. So then you can come down here, choose which DVR you want to assign. Currently, we don't have any. And then also the campaign that is associated to. You can also choose a specific agent. And you can also choose a priority and handicap for this call. Priority is, if you read over here, 0 to 100, 0 being the highest priority, 100 being the lowest priority. Then you can, the handicap is if you put a negative value in here. So let's say I put -20 in here. All right, a call comes in. It has a handicap of -20. The system's going to go, oh, this call has been sitting here for 20 seconds already. So I need to, so it's basically going to move the call up in queue, and it's going to look at the call like it's already been sitting there for 20 seconds in this case. Or if I put a positive value, 20, it's going to make it look like the system, like call comes in at 5:35, 0 seconds. If I have a handicap of 20, it's going to make the call look like it came in at 5:35 in 20 seconds. So it's a way that you can customize how the call is in the queue, or the priority. Now this can be done right here at this level, or depending on the IVR that you build, you can also modify it in there at the granular level. An example, call comes in and we've called them 5 times, or they've called us 5 times within the past 3 days. What we can do is we can then take that, all right, we know they've called 5 times past 3 days. We can modify their handicap to make them look like they've been waiting in queue longer, or queue less time. Or no, I'm sorry. We can basically move them up in queue to try and help speed up their process, since they've had to call back 5 times. So we can do it at the granular level. Or if there's a certain major that the call is coming in on, so the call comes back, we look at the phone number, the customer that's calling us back, I don't know, chemical engineering. We can see that they're doing chemical engineering. Then we can move their call, give them a higher priority, or we can make their call look like they've been sitting in queue longer, and which in turn would make their call get answered quicker. So there's a few other things, few pretty neat things that we can do when it comes to the IVR and how we can set it up. I don't want to go into too much more detail because I don't want to sound confusing. So I can hit save and save and close. Now on the queues, you can assign skills. If you're using a static DVR, you can go here and assign a skill here. So basically any agent that has that skill and is signed in on that campaign can receive that inbound call if they have chemical engineering as their skill. Now, if you do it at the IVR, like if you have a DBR or an IVR that's associated to this route, then you can also do the skilling in there as well. But basically, the strategy is linking the call from the outside to a campaign or campaigns within the system via a DBR within here. That's what a strategy is. DVR connector, I'm not really going to talk about right now, but once you get into Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, email, like email as a media, meaning you want emails to come into your system and the agents to work them, that's where you set up the DVRs. That's where the DVRs come into play. All right, so we talked about strategies. Connectors is the same thing as the DVR connectors. So I'm gonna go to calendar. So within calendar, you can go in here, create a brand new one. We're just gonna call this one the main one. We can add a description if we would like. And then now we're ready to start adding conditions. So in here, I go to new condition. And let's say we want the campaign to be turned on from Monday until Friday from 8 a.m. We'll say 8:30 to 9 p.m. There we go. So basically what we're saying is we want the campaign to be on from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. If I hit save and close, there's my new condition. So I want it to be on 8:30 to 9. All right, I can go back in here and create a brand new one. Let's say on Saturday, I want to be open from, let's say 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's in 21 hour, or it's in 24 hour, by the way. Military time, there we go. That's the right word. So we're open from 7 to 9. I'm sorry, 10 to 9 on Saturday. And then we can do a new condition on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Just like that. And we can have it on there. But what we can also do is go in here, especially since the holidays just happened. If we're closed on Christmas, we can do off from date. Actually, we had to do a little bit different. No, I was right. Yeah, from date. So let's say the 25th to 25th. Or if you're closed multiple days, then you can do that as well.
You
So
can
then we
also
can
select for Christmas, for example, it's easier to select day of the month 25th and month 12th, and that's so here you
There's
select.
okay, thank you. I was trying to see. I was trying to find month a minute ago, and I couldn't find it. So, but yes, thank you. Yeah, you can do that as well. Let me go ahead and delete that. That one's definitely easier because you don't have to change the year. So let's go in here, month December, and day of the month the 25th. I want it to be off. Yeah, just like that. So that's kind of nice. You can go ahead and pre-program that so it automatically turns off on those days. But yeah, so basically we've created a calendar. So I'm gonna hit save and close. And now I'm gonna go back to campaigns and admin, go to my campaign, choose my calendar and go main and hit save and close. Or you can hit save and close or just save. So now this campaign is gonna run based off of that information. So if I go to status of active, there we go. So basically it's going to run for another 3 hours and 17 minutes or something like that. And then it's going to turn off because our criteria says to turn off at 9 p.m. So it's basically how you build out calendars. Now you can use those calendars across multiple campaigns. So I've already assigned it to UNMF. So if I go to Josh out, I can go in here, choose that one, hit save. Now that calendar is applied to that campaign as well. So you can copy them between different different campaigns, but then you can also create custom ones for individual campaigns as well. Skill assignments we already kind of looked at. It's you can go in here to create new skills and assign them the value that you want them to look for. You can do that. You can create brand new ones as well. You can also go into skill assignment, view skills to look at the skills that you have and to also create brand new skills right here. Skill assignment, view CSV. So if we go to campaigns and click on view CSV, you can come in here and look at the CSV files that have previously been loaded. You can then go in. Let's see, I'm going to delete this one so I can hit that. I can view the records, but then I can also go in here and delete these as well and delete them out of the system. There we go. And then you can also go into view CSV to upload brand new ones as well. Templates is going to be the templates that we saw. So basically when we went to go import a new record, you can go in here and, or when we went to go import records, the little drop down to choose the template, the way the columns are set up, you can go in here and look at them as well and see how it's assigned. Close that. And then view nuisance call settings. So this is how you can look at the nuisance call settings that we have. You can go in here. So I click on this. So this one is running off of the greeting time and the hold time. And then we're running 30 days. And you can come in here and actually change this information and hit save and close, and it'll automatically start applying on the next call. Okay. Let me actually turn this back, or I can just hit close. I didn't save it. Okay. Hit close again. Any questions on campaigns? And I know there's a lot of information that I've been throwing at you.
Well, I got one. I got one kind of specifically to the calendars that we were just talking about and going over. And again, I'm just going to kind of what our current operating procedure has been. You know, we have the campaigns, and essentially the strategy before we start each night is to determine which campaigns for which clients we're going to call. And so I'm just looking at the options, and you were showing in the calendar where, okay, well, this campaign will be on from, you know, this time to this time. We don't typically run them like that. We would typically turn them on and off on a daily or nightly basis based on what we intended to call.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
you can still do that.
So, okay. So and as far as what I was thinking about with the calendar, at first I thought you were describing when the calendar would be open and available for like an agent callback. But then as you went into it more, it seems more as along the lines of when the campaign can be run.
It's programming for the outbound part of the campaign. So basically, it's not mandatory. So if you want to assign a calendar to a campaign, you can. If you don't want to, like Josh had his campaign, you just set no without calendar, and that's it. You start it and stop it whenever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, then you can come to the status, and if it's active, it's on. If it's paused, it's off. Yeah.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
It did. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to services. So within services, again, service is a campaign group from Next. So let's go ahead and, I know we did it earlier, but we'll go ahead and create a brand new one. So we're going to call this one UNMF. I'm just going to call it UNMF. So this is all of UNMF. Save and close. So in here, there are certain things that you'll never have to worry about. One of those things is ACD. You're never going to have to worry about that. Next transaction mode. Let me add in that. Okay. Hit close, save. Okay. So next transaction mode, this will allow the system to deliver the next transaction, or you can allow the agents to request a new transaction.
And by
So if,
transaction, you mean a record or a call?
yeah,
or-
like a call. Yeah, a call is a transaction in our system. Yeah.
Got it.
Since it's multi-channel, we couldn't name them calls because
Right.
you have an email, a message, a call, and we need transaction is a broad term for all interactions.
Yep, makes sense.
Sorry. Exactly. Yeah. Selection or break after transaction. So what this one will do, as the description kind of says off to the right, time in seconds, the system waits before delivering the next transaction. So if you want to give the agents 10 seconds between them ending their last transaction to getting a new transaction or call, then you can do that right here. I haven't really seen anybody do that, so we typically keep it at 0. Selection mode, we typically just keep this waiting mode. Dial pad, you can either do yes, no, or only in transaction. And that is over here on the agent side. If you look over here to the dial pad, you can either enable it or disable it so they can use it or see it or not see it. Or let me go ahead and do this actually. So let me go ahead and disposition this. Yeah, all right, so if I disposition this. So right now I'm not in a transaction. If I was to set this to only in transaction, then in this mode right here, I would not be able to see this. But since it's turned on for all the time, then I can see it. So we hit yes, there we go. Omni-channel profile. Going back, omni-channel solutions. So you can add the ability to have multiple different screens. Right now it's just set to default, which means there's no extra channels or extra profiles that the agent can, or extra transactions the agent can have. So yeah. Switch-based parameters, don't have to worry about that. And then down here, you can see the campaigns that are associated to this service. And then also you can see the agents that are assigned to this service. Now, if you need to assign an agent or a group of agents, then you can go assign users. Up here in the top part, you'll see your groups first, and then your agents. We do have a search box here, so you can find users relatively easily.
You can also use these to remove agents. So
Exactly.
it says add agents, assign agents, but it's also the opposite.
Exactly. And then going to assign campaigns, same thing. Add them over to the left side, or like I said, you can move them to the right side as well. Break reasons. So break reasons are, let's see, do you have any set up now? Oh wait, no, right now you can't control that. Yeah. So these are the standard break reasons that appear whenever you sign in or whenever the service is brought up. But if you want to create custom ones, so if I go new and let's say the code is B15, break 15 minutes, no switch code, don't worry about switch code. And I hit save. Now there's going to be another option when I do my drop down. So when I go over here and I try to go to a break, let me sign out. Choose that. All right, so if I go ready, and if I try to go not ready, you'll see I have a new little drop down break 15 minutes. And that'll help with some of the reporting to break it down. and you can customize these however you like. You can add as many as you want. So like if I want to add a B13, break after 30 minutes, then I can do that as well. And save, and then that new one will pop up as well. And that's break reasons. And then if you want to do force reconnection to refresh everybody's connection, again, if an agent is in a record, so if you look at my agent, I'm currently in a record, and if you hit force reconnection, nothing's going to happen. But as soon as I disposition, it'll let me know. And I'm signed back in, and then I get another call right away. But that's just to refresh everything. If you assign new campaigns, that sort of thing, then you can do that force reconnection for everybody just to make sure everybody's up to date. That's pretty much it when it comes to services. Again, service is the same thing as campaign group. You can assign as many agents and campaigns and unassign as you want. And then if I do want to say one thing, so if you only have one service with all the campaigns in it, which I don't think it's going to be the case, then it'll automatically assign the agent into one of the services. If an agent is assigned to multiple services, then you'll get the same pop-up screen, very similar to Next, where they can choose. It's going to look different, but it's going to be essentially the same thing where they can push and choose which campaign group or service that they sign into. Sound good?
Yep, that sounds pretty good.
Awesome. So let me save and close on this. Okay. Scripts. This is going to be all the agent scripts that are currently in your system. There's not much you can really do here, but you can go in here and delete them as well. It says error moving. It didn't error out. It likes to push us to wrong message. Same thing for scripts DVR. Well, we don't currently have any currently imported in, but if we did, then you would see them listed out very similar to the scripts right here. SIP servers, you don't have to really worry about. Recorders, you don't have to worry about. Same thing for messages, same thing for events. Those things are kind of aren't really needed. Events is pretty useful if somebody changed something and you want to go back in and see who changed it, then you can use events to try and find that. That is pretty useful. Is there any questions about the administrator?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, while we're here, why don't we go ahead and go to users and let's create.
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
I will. I can go.
All right. So Brad. I only know that because I'm looking at the the user assignment over on the other screen. Do you want it to be a capital B or lowercase b?
Lowercase.
All right. Oh, wait. There we go. Boom. All right. So you are created now within the system. It will prompt you to change your password, of course. Okay. Who wants to go next?
Danielle's.
Okay.
I had to step away. Literally
Okay.
1 minute before you started.
Oh, last
I'm back
name?
now.
Oh, there she is.
What do you need?
Oh, actually, I think I got it. Is it Calhoun? Is that
Calhoun,
it?
yeah, CALHOUN.
Okay. And then do you want to use the same username you have in Next?
Doesn't matter. It's whatever.
All right, there's that. Okay. Administrator, save and close. And save and close. Perfect. So anybody else, or do y'all want to maybe do it yourself if you have more? We don't have to necessarily do it right now, obviously, but
Yeah, we could do it on our
okay.
own.
I'm gonna sign out real quick. That way I can get the URL. And I'm gonna send it via a Zoom chat. Okay, so that is sent. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, so y'all should be able to log in now. Okay, so actually let me go in here and clean this up a little bit. All right, perfect. All right, so we have you in here, Danielle, and Brad's in here as well. And I sent the URL. Okay, perfect. So you should be able to log in now. Okay,
What's
so
the password for the first time?
oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Save. Okay. All right. All right. Now we're talking.
Now, if you break anything, it's your fault.
Gotta pay for it, right?
All right. So we kind of covered admin. Admin is one of those things where you do an overview and then you kind of let people go in and play with it a little bit. So if we don't have any more questions about admin, then I can start talking about the dashboard or supervision. I'm sorry.
I'm good for now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Sorry, I was trying to grab a sip of drink.
Well, that's okay. I know how you feel.
Yeah, I talk too much. Okay. So supervision. So if we go to supervision, I want to start with services, campaigns, agents, and customers. So if I go to services, very similar to what we're talking about. So here's our layout. If I go to services, I can see my individual services or campaign groups. And then what I can do is I can see how many number of agents, nice little pop-ups, are in transactions on this service that I'm looking at. So UNMF, there's an agent currently on a transaction. Wrap-up time, number of agents in wrap-up. So if I can't show you wrap-up right now. Available agents. So if I was to switch, you would see me pop up here. How many are unavailable, meaning I've gone into like a break status or something like that. And then total number of agents that are signed in. And then this piece right here, number of items in queue. If I wanted to dive a little bit deeper, I could go in and click on the service and I can see this information here. So in here, I can see the agents and their current status. So I can see there are 0 agents and not ready, 1 agent on preview, and then if I can see more if there's other, more agents signed in. On the right side, I can see how many agents are signed in with a transaction. This is primarily for Omni, more so than it is for single transactions. So essentially, like if I have 0 additional transactions, I'm here, so 1. But if I had 2 transactions, like let's say I had an email or a web chat and a call, then I would show up here. I have 1 additional transaction, and I would show up right here. If I have 0 transactions, then I will not show up in this little frame over here. On the bottom, you can see the campaigns that are assigned to the service of UNMF, and I can see the different stats that are associated with that. Okay. Worktop, I can see the different worktops that are assigned into the service. DVR, the activity on the DVR or IVR. And then dialer, I can see the calls that have been made on this campaign or service, I mean. I can change some different parameters straight from here instead of going to administration in campaigns and choosing my campaign. But if I make this change, it applies to the services as a whole. So next transaction I can change. This is one of those settings I showed. I can change it from agent or from system to agent, so the agent can control the next transaction. And then same thing with call blending and break after transaction. That's pretty much it with the services. Services, campaigns, and agents aren't really customizable. They're really just views, and then have a little bit more in depth. Dashboard is where we have some flexibility. So if there's no questions about services, then I'll go to campaigns.
Okay.
All right, campaigns. So campaigns will list my campaigns instead of my services. I have a breakdown of the different statistics. So over here, very similar, number of agents connected to this campaign, in a transaction, wrap up time, how many are available, how many are not available. The middle DBR one will kind of show us how many calls are in queue. So in queue voice will show you how many calls are in queue for this for said campaign. Queue media is if there's like chats, that sort of thing, currently in there. And then we have maximum wait time and estimated waiting time here as well. Those will automatically fill out the more samples it has within the campaign. Transaction, we have, so basically number of transactions today, and then in the quotes is in the last hour. SE plus, SC minus, NSC, and no are the ones that should look very familiar whenever we're looking at the campaign dispositions, at the different contacted status that you can assign to the dispositions. That's where these will show up, and you can quickly see, okay, today we've had 0 sales or 0 dispositions with a sale sale contact status. Then over here we have a breakdown of our leads. These are NS is non-callback records. SS is system callback records. AS is agent callback records. And then pause is number of paused records. And D is the number of disabled records or finalized. If I go in and click on the campaign, like I did on the service, then I get a little bit more data. I get some campaign data, some customer record data, the disposition breakdown for accumulated and today. Also have this list transactions. So if I want to go ahead and trigger the agent callbacks to go ahead and happen now, then I can click now, or I can configure it to automatically do it. Same thing for system callbacks. So like dispositions that we've already configured, I can do that as well. I can also control the mix. So if I want to call the majority of if I want to do like 5-to-1 on the left side, then I can do for every 1 fresh record, I call 5 callback records. Or if I slide it all the way, all callbacks, slide it all the way to the other side, all fresh records. But then again, if I do like this, for every 5 fresh records I dial 1 1 callback record.
Hey, Josh, so like on day 1, if I loaded this in and built this campaign and we went through all that on day 1, under customer records data, would it show me here how many records are eligible total in that list?
It would more so show you in the campaigns.
Okay.
So if I load this up, it'll show you right here. So,
okay.
Yeah. And then it'll also show you in list in this list table. So you can see right here the breakdown of potential records. So we'd have agents. So right now we have 12 records in the system, and they're all non-callbacks because they haven't been dialed. But then they'll vary based on
dispositions, right?
Thank you. Yeah. Let me go back to general real quick.
Where, yeah, where it showed that. We're very used to seeing like everything that we want, usually like on the dashboard. So
You can see most of the, you can actually see most of the stuff in campaigns, in supervision campaigns. You see both the agents and what they're doing, or how many there are, as well as how many records are available in the campaign. So non-callback are fresh leads, and then you have callbacks, finished calls, disabled numbers. So you can see most information in campaign, so where Josh is hovering over, and also in agents, which he hasn't gotten to yet, but he will shortly, I guess.
Yeah, and what dashboard will actually do is you can create views of services, campaigns, and agents and put them all into one dashboard. So, but yeah, we'll get there here in a few minutes. I wanted to save that one for last because I wanted to go over the individual pieces that add up into the dashboard.
You can actually create something, I don't know, maybe 95% or more exactly like you have the dashboard on Next right now, which can also add a lot of other stuff that Next doesn't actually have. But
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
yeah.
excellent.
Okay, so that's talked about this. Go to DBR. So this is the inbound activity primarily. So you'll have your queue statistics right in here. You'll also be able to have a graph view of the queued interactions. On the bottom is our call dispositions. And then over on the top right, our interactions, how many have come into the queue today or the last hour. Same thing for abandoned and handled. Those information will be here. And then your service level information will show up here as well. Dialer, we can't choose until we'll go to a different campaign to show that. List, this will show the list that was imported in here. Segments, here's our segments. So if we wanted to, we could come in here instead of going to administrator campaigns, and I could just click this little drop down and hit paused, or whatever I need to do. If I want to turn one back on, I can turn it back on right in here. So I can do that by going to campaigns, click my campaign, and then segments. And then also skills, you can see a breakdown of the skills. So currently there aren't any records assigned to chemical engineering, as you can see here, but all of our records are assigned to unassigned. And then who are they handled by? They're handled by any agent. I'm gonna switch to campaign. So this is really nice. So if I'm at a campaign, I want to look at a different one, I can just go campaign Josh out. And that one's, okay, let me change this to predictive real quick. Okay. Give me 1 second here. I can't switch a campaign to predictive because it doesn't have a control device. So let me just do that. Okay, so now we're predictive. All right, so now I can get to the dialer tab. That's what I was aiming to do. So the dialer tab is going to show you information about predictive. I won't spend too much time on this because I know you don't do a lot of it. Up in the top left, you have your information about how long you've been holding calls, how many calls you've been dialing, agents that, let's see, it's a number of agents available, and then agents active other than not available, and then total agents that are signed in, average wait time, connect rate, a graph view of the last 60 minutes of agents waiting time, last 60 minutes of calls being made, graph view, last 60 minutes of hold time, graph view, and then same thing for nuisance, last 60 minutes, and then nuisance percentage on graph. Again, the bottom has your call disposition codes, and at the top is your dialer settings. So this is some of the settings that we're looking at earlier in administrator. You can come in here and choose change dialer parameters and change some of these parameters right from here. Also, one thing to note is right here where it says predictive. This is yellow right now. what that means is it's currently learning and grabbing samples of how the dials are happening and the agents that are talking. So to basically space out in time, it's predictive dialing. So if it's yellow, it means it's learning. If it's like a blue or something like that, then it means that it's currently running um, based off of the formula that it's, or the information that it's gathered. And that's really it for campaigns. The other tabs are the same between predictive and preview. But that's basically the campaign section here. If we get into agents, so within agents, we have some of the same stats. We can see the agent name, the service they're signed into, their current status. So right now, if I hover over the status icon, I can see he's on preview right now, and how long he's been in that status. So if I go, oops, if I go not ready and end interaction, so I'm in not ready now. Flip back over, you can see the red phone saying that I'm not ready in the current time I've been in that status. Over here, you can see the break reason. So that here's the task or the reason for the current break. So right now I'm on B30, so break 30. How many transactions I've done today, the disposition breakdown again, my first session, my last session, and my total sessions today, and then my total breaks for today. All right. I could then do this little drop down right here. Actually, let me look at ready again. Perfect. So there we go, my status changed again. So I go to the drop down, I can go in here to agent, and I can pause this agent, or I can disconnect this agent, or I could start a chat session with that agent right from here. I could go to extension, and I could either A, set up a soft phone to put in here so that I can monitor or whisper a coach or conference, I should say, or I can put my my phone number in here to set up the connect, or my cell phone, so I can have my headphones in or something like that and listen into the conversation. But essentially, you could either call the agent, you can hit monitor, so you're just listening in. You could do whisper, so that way you could hear the agent, but or the agent could hear you, but not the customer could hear you. In the conference, it's like a three-way conference. There is an ability for screen monitoring. Currently, it's turned off. There is extra installation that has to happen for that to function. We also have this really nice piece called voice transaction. So if an agent is on a call, what I can do is there's two options. There's customer and transaction. If I hit transaction, it'll take me to a page like this, and it'll show me some of the information of the current transaction that they're on. So I can see when it's thinking about replanning it, or not replanning it, when the previous replanning. So this is the first time it popped up on my screen. And then we have this one right here, which means when this transaction started and when it was delivered to me. And then if it went through the IVR, you can see that information and how long they waited in the queue, time and preview, that sort of thing. You can see all these statistics right here for this transaction. I could also go in here to the dropdown, voice transaction, and go to customer. And I could look at all the customer information for the customer that the agent is currently talking to. Go ahead.
I just said nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's say the agent reached out to me via chat. So they requested a chat right here and it was like, hey, this customer I'm working with, XYZ. Okay, let me look at the customer. Go in here, customer. This pops up. I can go in, look at their information. Oh, okay, well, they're in arts and science, so they need to do X, Y, and Z, or they have to donate to here or whatever. And then down here at the bottom, it'll actually give you some transaction information about the lifetime of this record. You can see the calls that have happened. You can also go in here and click the speaker and start up the recording for this call. Actually, I clicked out of that really quickly. So here's one of the recordings for today, or whenever it was. Yeah, it was today. I can then come in here, download this audio via MP3 or WAV, and then I could send the recording off, or do whatever I need to do with it. But then I can just go here and close it. I could also, let's say this agent's like, hey, I did, the customer's phone number was this. I need to add that call to the DNC. Or if they're talking to this, or they contact you via the chat and they say, hey, this customer is like really mad or whatever, can we make sure we add them to the DNC? I got you. So if you bring up the customer information, then you can do the DNC right in here as well by just clicking that. I'm not going to do it. It's my phone number. I'm still testing, but you can go right here and change it right here. Now let's say the customer, or not the customer, the agent accidentally changed some information. You can actually come in here and let's say they changed their class year from 1989. Wow, 1989 to like 1990. You could come in here. Okay, yeah, I can change this and hit save, and you can save that information. You can do that with the majority of everything in here, but that is one way you can update data or change it or modify it in any way.
I had a question though about the
Yeah.
the screen monitor. What all is involved? Because I know that when we looked at this a while back, or one of the first times we looked at it, that was something that was very intriguing.
So for the screen monitoring, you have to have a application downloaded on the agent's computer.
On the agent's computer, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it has to be pre-installed, and then to be able to initiate it, the supervisor has to initiate it from Internet Explorer. So basically, they would go to this same page, and then they would come to this little drop-down screen monitor, and then it would initiate this little download for them. But they have to do the download they have to do it through Internet Explorer to be able to do that, which is fine because it's on Windows still.
Right.
But it's just you would have to you couldn't initiate the screen monitor from this from Chrome. You'd have to initiate it from Internet Explorer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a very cool feature though in the age we live in now.
Yeah.
We had as you know, we work with colleges, and some of our colleges have their students call. And this last fall, many of them had them call from dorms or from their apartments or home, and
Yeah.
it was very difficult to kind of manage all of them being not call center people, but 19 and 20-year-old students, and not being able to see what they were seeing. So it's something I've been thinking about, but we
Gotcha.
can touch on that later.
Okay. Excellent. So all right, that's basically it for agents. If you had media transactions, the same thing I showed you with voice transactions, you would be able to do with media. One exception is, let's say you have Facebook integrated. You could actually go in and look at the Facebook chat that's going on straight from here as well, from the supervisor side. Customers. So customers is where you can go in and search. So let's say agent comes to you and says, hey, I called a customer on, the phone number is this, the campaign was this, and I called them between XY times or date. I can then go in and create that criteria, search for it. Of course, in my case, I have a ton of them because they're my test records. I could then come in here and click on customer source ID. Same kind of screen will pop up with that information. I could either take this information and export it, or if I want to, change the time zone of them or something like that, I can do that as well from right from here as well. Again, I can come in here. All this information is customizable. Phone number, campaigns, some of this. I'm sorry.
Yep. I see call disposition down there too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's one of them. So call disposition codes. So if, one thing I recommend is choose your campaign first, and then choose your disposition, because when you choose your campaign, it'll limit the dispositions that show. but you can always do all of the campaigns.
That way, but this way you'll see, I don't know, 10 sales, 7 answering machines, and it's hard to filter through.
Yeah, as you can see right here, we have 3. So if I put answer machine, I would just do that. But if I had limited my campaign, then only one of them would have showed up. I mean, you can navigate however you like, but just a suggestion. And then you can also, what's really nice is choose, very similar to what you can index, you can choose the disposition date and time range, so that way you can customize that as well. Choose it if you want to look at certain dispositions that happen during a certain time frame. Also look at, yeah, so all this is criteria that you can customize to pull your information. And then nice, you can hit reset filters, which resets filters. That's basically it. You can search for records, pull up records, and look at the information kind of like what we looked at earlier. Any questions when it comes to this?
Well, I was just curious if you're building this search mechanism is individual each time that you run it, or are you able to save certain criteria as a search or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to build it every time.
Yeah.
That is a pretty good idea though. Yeah, but yeah. Well, I will say this. Depending on what you do, like let's say I set this up, I set certain aspects up in here, and then I go to like administration campaigns, and then I come back to the screen. Typically, it will save the information that I last put in here. But if I go into reports and run a report on with certain filters set, then my filters will be set to that.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it'll save the last filters that you use, typically. Yeah. So. Okay. So now we cover services, campaigns, agents, and customers. Let's switch over to dashboards. So dashboards is where you can come in and create your own view. There's single columns, double columns, and triple columns. What I mean by that is right now we're looking at double columns. So this object here and this object here are 2 columns. So in this side over here, I have two views in 1 column. But if I wanted to create my own, I could go back over here, go to new. I can name it. I'm just gonna call it like Josh view. I'm not gonna add a description, or I'll add a description of stuff Josh likes to see. I spelled it wrong, but we'll be all right. So you can choose 1 column, 2 column, or 3 column. Personally, I like 2 column the best. I think it fits the data the best. But that's just my opinion, or my preference, not my opinion. And I'll hit save and close. So then I select it. And now I don't have any views in here. So what I need to do is create views. So if I go to new view, I can go in here, I can select my type. So I have service, campaign, and agent, very similar to what we looked at a second ago. So if I want to look at my campaign information, I need to add a label. So I'll say all campaigns. I can create specific views for individual campaigns or a group of campaigns. I can do a group by just doing the check marks like that. Or I can just do all, and it'll bring all the campaigns in. And then in here, I can choose a multitude of different things. I know one thing that you're looking for is revenue, right? Or like donation amount or something like that, right?
Yep.
Okay. That one's not going to be integrated into here. We have a different way of doing that. But at a later date, we'll get it added, and it'll be an option right down in here. Like it's going to be under one of these supervision options, and it'll be donation amount, or I can't remember exactly what it's called. Yeah, revenue. Thank you. But that's not going to be an option that will be here, but it will be an option that you can choose from over here. So over here, there's a multitude of different fields, like I said. So number of agents connected to the campaign, if I want to see that. If I want to see No, I don't want to see that. Number of agents in a transaction, in wrap up, maximum waiting time. It's just a lot of the same things that are in campaigns, but you can customize exactly what fields you want to look at. If let's say I want to look at break time as well, and then pause break time today, so save. So now here's my first view. If I mess something up and I want to change it, I can hit the gear. This pops back up, and I can change the information that I see. I can then go to all campaigns, and it'll take me to that screen. I think I said gear. I meant wrench. I hope everybody understood. So if I want to go look at this campaign, I can click it just like I did earlier, and then I can hit my back button, and it'll spit me back out over here. I can go to the end and create another new view. Let's say I want to create one for agents, and I'll just say all agents. Again, I can select certain agents that I want to look at as well. I can, drag over some more stats, availability, transactions today, and then wrap up time and break time today, and total breaks. And I hit save, and now my other view will come in. So I have all agents and all campaigns. What I then can do is I can organize it. I can throw this over here. So now I have my agent, my service, what their current status is, break time today, how many breaks they've taken today. Wow, I've done really bad. But what you can do, again, hit the wrench and come in here and change the options in here. I can then also go to the little drop down and do like we just did in agents. And I can customize, or I can go in here and select my different options, very similar to the way I did it over here in agents. And then I can go in here and create a view for service. So let's say all services and bring in my data. So in, available, unavailable, total agents, save. And there's my other view, or my other view for my services right there. And then let's say I want to look at a specific, if I want to look at a specific campaign, let's say I want to create a new view for 2 campaigns. So we'll say UNMF for campaigns. I can then come in here, choose my campaigns I want to look at, and then I can drag over the statistics I want to look at. And then again, I can organize it however I'd like. So if I want it to be over here, okay, why is it?
Doesn't want to go over
Oh no, why are you doing that? That works. So I can do something very similar to that. So I have 4 different views I'm looking at. And again, I could click on the campaign, it spits me over here. If I click on it, the agent drop down, I can see that information. Same thing for the service. If I click the service, it'll spit me over to the services. Another really neat thing, let me look at, all right, so let's say I want to add an alarm. Basically, I want different things to happen after certain things. So if I go to view alarms, I'm going to create a brand new alarm. We're going to name this too many breaks. Oh wait, break too high. I don't even know how to spell it right. Too many breaks. All right, and we're going to say it's a critical alarm, and we're going to look at the campaign level. What column do we want to look at? So in here, I want to look at the break. Where is?
I think the penultimate one, break time for today.
Yeah. Did I miss it?
The penultimate one.
Down at the bottom, wasn't it?
Down at the bottom. The next, yeah, that one.
No, I was looking for the number of breaks. I'm sorry. It's in here somewhere. I know it's in here. It's just mixed in. All right, so we'll just do this one. No, we won't. All right, we'll just use break time today. Oh wait, hold on. I wanted to, let's see, I want so the column, I'm sorry, I had this wrong. The column that you're choosing right here, typically it's going to be the same one that you're wanting to look at, but this is going to be the field that's going to show the alarm or show the different coloring of what's going on. So we'll just do break time today, and let's say we want to turn this alarm on, and then we want to look at break time today. And then our expression is going to be break time is greater than 20, so 20 seconds. So if I hit save and close, hit close, I instantly had an alarm going off over here. And if I go over here, my break time today, you can see is 36 minutes and 2 seconds. So both of these campaigns are red right now because the break time is too high. And then I can go in here, if I create an agent one, let's see, we'll call, this is going to be an agent one. I want breaks today. That's what I was looking for, but I think that one's only at agent level now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Is greater than 1. Oh wait, you know what? It's because I chose agent BTH. There we go. All right, so if I hit save and close on that one. So now, if we look over here, you can see this agent had 19 breaks and the alarm is currently on. So you can create pieces to call out different areas and create custom alarms. So that way it'll draw your attention to the different pieces.
As you also may have noticed, there's a little bell on the top right. So even if you're doing something else, like setting up a campaign or, I don't know, running a report, you will still see the alarms up top. And you can go to the dashboard, see what's going on. Yeah.
Very good.
Let's see. All right, so another thing that we can do is calculated data. So calculated data, we're able to basically create our own different calculated fields. So let's see. Let's say we want to do dials per hour. Let's see. Dials hour. Now, as you can see, I've done this one before. I want to look at the campaign level. So in here, I can come in and create a formula. So let's see. Where is it's at the top. Number of transactions today divided by let's see, total, session time today. Let's say minus break time today, something like that. So I could basically come in here, create a formula, and save and close it. I hit close. Oh, well, no, okay. Now I can go in here and create and add that in. So if I scroll all the way down, you'll see dials an hour. I didn't actually add in a description, so that's why it's blank on the right side. And hit save. Yeah, it's going to be 0 because I haven't been doing any dials in a while. And the amount of dials I've done has been very, very minimal. But that's how you can basically come in here and create a calculated data. You can, again, go calculate data, go new. You can see the different fields that are associated based on the type. And then you can create your custom calculation straight from here. And the number of available fields is dependent on the type. So campaigns don't have the same parameters as agent or services and vice versa.
Yeah.
But then once you set up a dashboard, you can then, the last dashboard that you signed into or reviewing is the one that'll pop up whenever you come back to it. So like if I go administrator campaigns, here's what I'm looking at. If I go supervision dashboard, here it is. This is the same one I looked at last time. I can then go view dashboard and look at a different one, see this information. And then if I want to flip back over, go to a different one, then I can do that as well. If you wanted to create a copy of this dashboard and modify it or add something else into it for yourself, you could go open it, create copy, and we'll say it's just Josh view again and hit save. So now I've created a new dashboard. I can go in here and mod. So if like somebody has a dashboard you like, then you can go in and copy it and then put it and rename it and then modify it with other things that you may want.
They're saved. You don't have to do this every day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For a second, like, oh geez.
Oh no. Yeah. That would suck.
That would be terrible.
Is there any questions about the dashboard?
I mean,
there's a lot.
The calculation stuff is something that we'll definitely I'll want to be looking at and see what we can do there. It was a little just a, and I believe me, at 2 hours and 40 minutes in, I appreciate quick, but I don't know. I think that we'll have a lot of questions once we get a chance to get in and just trying to do some of these things, and I know I'll have questions.
Yeah, totally understandable. Yeah, I'm good at answering questions. I like to think. So any questions that come up, yeah, feel free to send me an email or I would say if you have questions, ask them as they come, and then I can answer them or whatever. Typically, if you try to hold on to them until the next training session, they may fly away.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely ask them as they come, for sure. That's all I have for today. We got through administrator, we got through supervision. The only thing that we really got to talk about is reports. With the default reports, there's not a whole lot there. It's reports, but unlike the dashboards, you can't really customize the reports in here like you can in over here on the dashboard stuff. Can't really customize it. It is the data that you get is the data that you get in the reports. But I know Bogdan in the backends, I know he's going to be creating some stuff and getting the data for you the way you're probably going to need it the most. But that's the only thing we really need to touch on this side. And then once we cover admin on this side, we can go to once we cover reports, then we can switch over to the agent, and then we can start talking about DBRs and the agent script builder.
Very good.
So we have 18 minutes. Do y'all have any questions or anything like that?
Danielle?
No, not yet. I'm sure I'll have many once we get into it.
No. It's so hard. I mean, it's like there's been multiple moments in the last 2.5 hours where I was panicking in my head for a minute, and I just said, okay, just hold on, let them explain, let them get to it. It will probably get there, so just be patient. It's just this stuff. It's just, I swear. I mean, I've been through I think this would be my third different call center conversion. Not talking about even going to someplace and they just use a different software, but it never ceases to amaze me the different acronyms and names we can all have for exact damn things. It's like,
yep.
And next it was like learning that leads were your records, whereas in the system before that, the records were the records. And,
records were records, yep.
Yeah, so it's just always never ceases to amaze me how many acronyms and different things we can think of. I mean, transactions make sense. I get it.
Yeah.
So that's a new one. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, and in the age that we're in and all the different things we do, that fits pretty good. So no, I think it's good. I'm looking forward to getting some time to just kind of poke around and I'm sure we'll have questions for you. I think our next one's on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
correct. Also, I wanted to add, because like, please forgive me, I completely zoned out while scheduling this meeting, that you guys are in East Coast time. So would you like to do this meeting like earlier next time, or?
Oh, that would be fantastic. If we could.
Yes, that would be great. I'm at an 11-hour day. So.
I agree. I agree with everything that's being said right now.
Sure. Josh, next time are we looking for also 3 hours or 2 hours would do?
I'm gonna leave that up to y'all, shift marketing team. How do you feel about it? Do you want it to be 3 hours, or would you rather do 2?
I think we should keep it for 3 for now, and
Okay.
then with the understanding that if we get to a point and you cover everything, then we certainly don't have to stay for 3. But I do anticipate Danielle and I will have a lot of questions by Wednesday, so it might be good just to have that extra time.
Okay.
Of course. So that being said, what time works best for you?
Oh, sorry.
I'm free between 1 and 4 East Coast time on Wednesday.
How about you, Danielle?
I think it's pretty much the same for me.
Yeah. Our schedules are pretty alike.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's up against 4 o'clock, which I have this Nobel BIZ shift marketing admin training. That's what I have it for. So.
Sure.
Yeah, 1 to
All
4
right.
works as
I'll go
well.
ahead and reschedule that from 1 to 4 Eastern time.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Did we cover already when we expect to see the revenue capability on the dashboard?
No, I am going to start working on that tomorrow. I just have to get with one of my guys on my team. It's already, actually, I'm not going to say anything. We'll cover it on Wednesday. Yeah, I just want to talk to him first, see at what stage it is. I'm pretty sure it's done. I just want to double check. But yeah, so we'll double check. I'll double check with that tomorrow, and then Wednesday I'll address it.
Okay, cool.
Just one thing I would encourage trying to make a campaign, like take a campaign and copy and try to make the settings, or create the campaign and adjust this and put the settings how you're going to want it. And then on Wednesday, we can take first few minutes and kind of go over it and just see how you did, or just a recommendation. That way, start getting used to creating campaigns and things like that.
Right. All right.
So that's all I got.
All
All right,
good
sounds
deal.
good. I'll go ahead and reschedule the meeting, and we'll see you all next Wednesday. And I'll go ahead after our call right now and send you the recording. Just please make sure to download a copy on your local computer, because it's only available on cloud for 14 days.
Will do.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.
You guys have a
All
good
right,
night.
you too.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.